So let's get started here. So the topic that I'm going to cover today is validating a connector and connector best practices. My name is Mahbub Murshed. I'm a senior software engineer, and my LinkedIn profile is right there. If you want to connect, if you want to follow, please feel free to do so. Um, so today, what I want to cover is three basic topics. At the end of the presentation, you will learn how to fix a connector. So we'll start with a connector called Facebook connector. It's in the open source repo, and then I'll demo how you can use Peacon and Pack CLI. Mainly Peacon. Those are two CLI that we have available right now. But I'll also introduce the Pack CLI just a little bit. I don't think I'll have time to do both. Um, and then share some connector development best practices. So about me, I am trying to change the world through entrepreneurship. I know it sounds audacious, but I think if we don't have audacious goal, what can we change? How can we do it, right? I'm an engineer with business mindset. I'm doing a business degree at University of Washington right now. I have a young boy who has autism, so that's another part of my life. I play guitar and singer and songwriter, so that's my hobby. I usually go through what is a connector, but I'm going to spend very little time on this, but I'm just going to do quickly. Connector is basically a formal definition of REST API, and it allows the REST service to talk to Microsoft Flow and Power Apps. It contains the definition for OpenAPI, some extra properties, we call it API properties, and optionally some binary, right? So the way I'm going to run today is it's going to be all live. I'm going to work on this Facebook connector. And if you want to participate with me doing it hands-on, you can download or clone the repo here and install Python and run pip install Peacon. These are the two tools we will be used primarily, right? Um, so once we go through the demo, I think this is going to be the major chunk of our presentation today. And then I'll discuss some best practices, right? So I'm gonna give 1 minute for you to visit this link. It's github.com/Microsoft/Power Platform Connectors. Once you go there, click the code, and then this is a Git link. If you must have Git installed. So if you have Git installed, do Git clone and do this, right? And once you have that installed, go to python.org. If you don't have Python installed, basically it's a download the version, and once you download and install Python, you type pip install Peacon. So Peacon is a CLI that we're going to use. So these are the two tools we need to use. I'm just going to give you 1 more minute to do that. And in the meantime, I'm going to describe how we are going to run this session. So we have about 15 participants today. I'm gonna run this Excel script that will randomize and pick a number. So for example, if this is, for example, here's 2, and I'm gonna ask the second person from the list about a question. So I'm gonna make a lot of mistakes, and I'm gonna ask you to fix it. And I know that you may not know how to fix it, but the asking you will actually help others to also think and learn. But try your best to answer the question. If you don't, that's completely fine. If you have mic problem, just give us a reaction. Then I'll just maybe just say love or something, so that I know that your microphone is not working, and then I'll move on. Okay. Okay. So I think you should be good now. So the way I'm gonna do it is I'm gonna go to. So what I'm trying to do, right? So there is a custom connector called Facebook, right? But there's no standard connector called Facebook. So what I want to do, it it has some actions, and I'm really interested in these actions. I want to get okay, someone if someone posts on your timeline, you want to get an email. That's what I want to do. If someone posts on my timeline, I want to send an email to myself, or say we have a family. I want to send an email to this family group for this. So that's what I want to do. There is no standard Facebook connector because of complexity in licensing and other stuff. So I'm gonna just use this custom connector. So that's what I wanted to do. So I go to flow.microsoft.com. I go to data, custom connectors. So I want to create a custom connector for Facebook first, right? And there's things here. But So there's an option. If you click new custom connector, there's an option called import from GitHub, right? So two options, certified and custom. Certified comes from this certified folder. Custom comes from this custom folder, right? So I click custom because that's where my Facebook connector is. Usually we have both of these are in sync, but just dev is the main branch that we use. So select dev and connector is Facebook, right? And oh, what just happened? So it gave me some errors. So what do we do? Let me see. We have number two, and I see Bernard is on the number two in my list. Bernard, you want to help me with this? What do I do with this? Bernard, if your mic is not working, just give me a reaction saying that yeah, you don't want to unmute. Okay, that's fine. We'll move on. Um, Number eight, Nicholas, you want to help me with this?
Change it to a certified
Okay, thank
toggle.
you. That's close. We are gonna do a little more hands-on. We are gonna just fix it ourselves. Like so,
Okay.
there is no so usually so Microsoft did not fix it, and it's a broken connector. I'm grumpy. I'm just gonna fix it myself, right? So I have a clone of this. Sorry, I have the clone of this repo here. Um, and then here I'm just gonna so there's a custom connector. There's Facebook, and I'm just gonna fix it myself. Okay, that's what I decided. Okay, I think I can take care of these two errors. So there are two errors: error one and error two, right? So there are two errors. Okay, so the first thing I do is I come here and I go to Power Platform Connectors, and then CD Custom Connectors, CD Facebook. Okay. And then I know that okay, there's a tool called PACon. So what does it do? Let's look PACon CLI, and I got this documentation that tells me that there is an option for validation. Where is it? It's right here. So to validate a Swagger, you can do this or this, right? It sounds like sounds pretty simple. There is an also option for help. So I'm gonna do PACon validate dash dash help. This is basically giving me the same option. I can basically have to do a argument as it so basically I have to provide the file name. So I do API definition. Oh, what is it saying? Access token is valid. Please log in again. Okay, good. So what do I do? So I want to know how to log in. I can read in this documentation, or I can say, okay, PACon, how do I log in, right? Dash dash help. And it's saying, okay, there's an option for login. So do that. So I'm gonna do that. Login. Okay, so it's saying me that to log in, follow this method of going to this URL, um, And okay, so I have to do MFA. I got a notification on my phone. Okay, and then it's saying continue. So obviously, the login process is a little cumbersome, and then the other CLI that I'll talk about helps with that. So we'll figure that out what to do. Um, okay, login is successful. It shows here. Now let's try this again. Okay. Whoa, now we had how many errors? We had two errors. Now we got a jumble, and I don't know what to do with this. So let's say so this one actually succeeded because I fixed all the errors, right? So let me reset this. Okay, I'm gonna reset. Uh, okay, so okay, so I reset to basic status. Now it should error out. So it's saying that it's a bad request, but actually the error is coming from here, and it's saying there's a message. There's a bunch of error here. Okay, so let's count the errors. Do you guys know how to parse this text? Let's see if we can parse it. We're going to use a tool called Visual Studio Code. Um, so these are the errors. So the first error is the one that we saw. So I'm gonna replace with /r/n with n. Actually, sorry, I have to turn on the so slash. Sorry, it doesn't work. Okay. All right. So that's fine. So two errors, bunch of warnings. Right. Uh, okay. So view word wrap. Okay, there it is. Okay. So the first error, there's one error here, and then you can parse it out. Just I can't seem to make it work right now. But yeah, so rest of them are warnings, right? So the tops are errors, and rest of them are warning. And okay, so what happened? So we had two error in the portal. We saw two here, but we got four here, right? So the difference is the validation here runs with a smaller subset of rules, right? When you run a validation here, it runs with a larger subset of rules. At this moment, there is no way to tell which set of rules are running. But if you're curious, the code for this CLI is actually here. You can look up actually exactly what what is running here. So if you go to the operations, validate PI, this is actually running. Second, go to the commands, validate. Yeah, there it is. Let's see, operations. Yeah, so this is the option. Enable certification is true. If you ever need to change it, just you can modify this here, or just get a copy and modify it and just run this directly, and then you can do that. So since we are saying that enable the extra rules, that's why we are getting extra errors. So for now, we'll just fix all of them. Not difficult to do. Um, the first error, what is saying? So this is a JSON path, right? So we can follow this path. So if we go, I have the Facebook Connect Swagger open, so we can follow the path. So the paths slash page ID slash feed and get parameters, right? So we find the paths. So this is the paths. The page ID slash feed is what it's talking about, slash ID and feed. Get parameters, right? So this is the get and then parameters, right? It's saying that parameter 0, the first parameter is this. So this is the first one that it's talking about. And here, there is something called XMS dynamics values. Yes, there's XMS dynamic values. And then there's a parameter called accept. And it's saying that this is could not be found in operation for get my pages. So if you don't know what XMS dynamic values does, it provides you a set of dynamic values to choose from. So it calls another action, and that action gives the list of values for this action to work on. More information about this is available online. So if you find XMS dynamic values, this documentation has this. You can see XMS dynamics values, and so it works like this. So instead of typing cars or foods, you can have a drop down that lists cars and drop food, and this drop down is generated from dynamically from that other call. So that's what it does. So the error is saying the parameter could not be found in get pages. So let's look at in the get page, get my pages, right? So start get my pages. Okay, so this is the operation get my pages, and it doesn't even have a parameter. So my question to you is, what should we do? Um, number 7. So 7 would be Miles Hedrick. Can you help me with this question? What should we do with this? Okay, we can find someone else. 11, 8, 9, 10, 11. Scott.
Add the accept parameter.
Yeah, so what do we, so the get my pages is not accepting any parameters. So what do we do with this? Sorry, I didn't
Add
hear
that
what the suggestion.
add, add that accept parameter to the
Yeah,
get my
yeah,
pages.
yeah, we can add it, but I'm not sure if adding will help. Other way would be to just remove it, right? So you can just remove it, saying that okay, since it does not take any parameter, let's not give any parameter, right? So that's another way. So thank you, Scott. So let's find another one. So there are two in both of the cases, the same error, right? So the same thing. We're just going to remove and see what happens, right? So that's the experimentation we have to just do with it, right? We don't did not build the connector, so have to kind of learn it. If we run it, how many errors do we expect to see? So we had 4, we fixed 2. How many do we expect to see? Let's do uh, S Kanwaya. Okay. Um, uh, like IPOV.
Uh, Probably we see two.
Yeah, thank you. So we do that. We see two, and then we actually do C2, right? So error one, error two. And then we know which two are those are. Those are these two. Okay. So the first one is saying that info contact property is required. Okay. So I think I understand the error. So I'm gonna make another mistake here and then see what happens, right? Contact, and I just give my email address, right? A dot IP dot C dot com, right? Let's see what happens to save it. Oh, it's saying that invalid swagger. The definition is not even valid. So what just happened? So I don't know what happened. So I am curious. I want to look what other people did. So I want to go to code or maybe look into recent pull request and see, okay, this is the tools. Let's check. So what did they do? Files change one, and the swagger. I load the swagger and see. Come on. Okay. I see that, okay, its contact is not one string, it's just an object. So I'm just going to copy this and then provide it here. Um, I don't really care right now what to fix it. So maybe support at facebook.com would be something. And then URL is facebook.com or something, right? Support.facebook.com, something like that. Or we can fix, um, assume that you're using the right one. So that fixes it. And we should see just one now. So let's do that. So the only one error is this one, and the next one is a warning, right? So XMS connector metadata. So again, I don't have any clue what to do with this, and I just follow the same pattern of finding what other folks did, and then go from there. Um, Come on. Okay. It's taking long. This is a massive connector. Sorry, I opened the wrong one. Okay, I'm just gonna open one here locally, right? So the connectors. So the I already have a copy of the connector, right? So I can just open one without any problem. My favorite one is this connector. This is pretty good connector. Uh, and then all the way at the end, there's a section called connector metadata. You can also Google for it and then find it, right? Uh, okay, I'm just gonna copy this and then put it in our Facebook connector. Put a comma here to end and then paste. And so privacy policy, it's gonna be usually it's for Facebook connectors, so Facebook, um, something like that. You can look up what's the right URL, right? Category for Facebook is let's the social media, right? Okay, now we fixed all the errors. Let's see what our validations say. Nice. It's saying what? It succeeded with warnings. It is not required but recommended to fix. So we are not going to bother right now, right? We are just going to create a connector out of this. So how do I create? So I fix everything on locally. So what I have here are a bunch of files. So what are the files do we have? We have the definition itself that we have been fixing. We have something called API properties. I don't know what that is, so we'll figure that out. And we have something called settings. It was created by the tool, the CLI that we have been using. But if you go into the GitHub, you will see that that settings file is not there, so we are not going to worry about that, right? So custom connectors, Facebook, and settings file is not here. So the README file is this README file. So it's just a document. So these are the two files that's important for us, right? So to create a connector, we're going to use the CLI again. And again, the documentation is here. You can read it. We are going to just do from here. We're going to say pacon, please help me. What can I do with you? And it's saying that you can create a new custom connector from the given directory, right? So I'm like, okay, tell me more. So create dash dash help. And then, okay, for creating, you have to do this, this, this. So I still don't know. It didn't give me an example, right? So I come to documentation and I find create. And here is the option. And this option looks good. This one looks pretty simple. This one is one I will explore with you. Right? So this part, right? So first part is an environment GUID. So what is an environment GUID? So if you come to flow power automate flow here, this is the environment. So environments slash the GUID is tells you the environment you're in. And then the environment can be listed from here. So this is our environment. And then we need two files, the properties files, the definitions file, right? So we do that. We say, okay, create minus E environment minus D for definition. This is a shortcut I'm using. So minus D is a shortcut for definition here. This document doesn't say that. But you can see it here. Minus D is a shortcut. And you can say API Swagger is the Swagger definition. And minus P is the property, API property, right? So that should be it. So we are saying, hey, pacon CLI, create a connector in this environment with file 1 and file 2. That's what we're saying, right? Oh, what does it now? What is it saying? Let's see if our audience can help us with this. Number 2 already we talked with. Number 6. So let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Jocelyn, can you help us with this?
Then why does the participants do it? I'm an internal.
Okay, I'm gonna pick next. Maybe K and I do. Can you help us with this? What is the error saying here? What can we do about this? Okay, I'm just gonna move on. We talked with minus Nicholas. Oscar. Okay. So I'm just gonna move on. So the secret argument. So we don't know what the secret argument is. Now we are gonna look into the second file. So we have been working on the Swagger file, and we're gonna look into the second file. So what does the second file has? It has something called a connection parameter, and it is using something called a Facebook app ID. So I'm gonna talk a little bit more in a second. But for now, I'm just tired of changing all of this. I'm just gonna submit something just to create connector and get an EY so that we kind of work, we can work with the EY a little bit more, right? So I'm just going to do ABCD as a secret. So minus R is for secret, and I'm just going to let it create one. So I already had a settings file there, so I'm just going to say yes. Okay. So it's saying that this connector was created successfully. So if I go here, I don't have a Facebook connector. So if I refresh, I should see one, right? So here's the Facebook connector I just created. I can now edit it and do whatever I want to do with it. So I'm going to go through a security definition that we just spoke. This security definition comes from that API properties file that I just showed, right? Now, to make it work, we have to have a client ID and client secret, and documentation of how to do that is just right here. So I'm going to do that. So for the interest of time, I already created an app, but you can, let's see if we can quickly do that. I think it's going to be helpful. So in any connector scenario, you will, in most of the cases, have to create some kind of OAuth app. So OAuth app usually comes with a client ID and client secret and scope and a redirect URL. So in all of this service provider, they will give a way to create one. So this is the way for Facebook, and you have to find which service provider is giving you what. So if you go to developer scenario and notice that I am logged in with my account, and then I create a app, and then it's saying uh, give me a documentation. So I don't know what's going on. Maybe because I already have some apps, right? So I click my app, and I did create an app last night, so I could use that. But let's create one. I'm just going to do very quickly. It doesn't matter here, so let's just say consumer. Move on to next. Type details. Display name would be our platform, just your name or something like perfect connectors. Um, and then say demo. Right? Create an app. So it's saying that so I'm going to use a password manager here. And then just fill in my okay. So it's working. It's created. So you have to add the Facebook login. So you can say Facebook login setup. So it's saying okay, documentation is giving documentation. I'm just gonna say site URL and then save it. Right. And here in the settings, and this is very important, right? So in the settings, valid OAuth redirect URL. So we know that our valid OAuth redirect is this. So I'm gonna copy this, post it here. Sorry, on this one, this here, and save changes, right? And then I go to the settings for the app, go to basic, and copy this app ID, edit client ID, and show client secret. So secret should be secret. Don't share it with anyone. I'm just gonna delete this app after this demo, so I can share. Um, so the scope is user post. So this is very important. I was playing with this last night, and make sure that you just have one scope here, the user post for this connector. I don't know why if you put more than one, it breaks. For this Facebook app, maybe this is a specific problem. But for now, just keep user post, and I could explore more. But we have 20 more minutes, and we have a lot more content to go. So let's just show you how it works. Um, so you update this connector. Okay, and now I go to test. Um, click a new connection, and it's saying, hey, it's requiring access. Can you give it access? So, okay, it create a connection, and then you can now test operation. So get my feed is what. Okay, so it's saying that it's 200 success, and it's saying giving me my post, right? So I'm too embarrassed to search for my post what it posted, but there it is. Okay. So now you can create a flow that we started with saying that, okay, we will create a flow when there's a new feed, new posts on my Facebook channel. I can create a flow that sends me an email, right? So I'm gonna go create a flow, and I'm doing really fast here. I'm not pausing because this is not the main part of our presentation, but I want to complete a story, right? What we wanted to do, right? Sorry, I was talking and missed it. Okay. Um, so I want to start with the trigger from Facebook. So custom, and then I click custom because it's a custom connector, right? And select Facebook. And then when there's a new post on my timeline, and then if there's a post, I'm just going to send an email, send an email notification to me, and then you can fill in whatever you're getting. Okay, who posted, first name, uh, and feed item description, whatever I do, then you send an email. That's it. You save it, you test it, and then there you go. So you just unblock. So the story that we had is that I want to use a Facebook custom connector to create to get an email when there's someone posts on my wall, right? Something like that. And we achieved that. We used PCon CLI extensively to validate, and then we used this to create a connector, and then we used the connector, and then we also showed how to create an app, and then we fixed everything, and now we have a working version of a connector that can do this. Okay. I want to finish off with PCon's other things there. So there is an option for PCon download. Um, and for download, you can say, hey, this is the environment, and this is the connector. So you can say C for connector, and then to download this, you have to go to custom connectors. This page, okay. And let's say this one is what I want to download. So if I go to this page, so what is the connector ID? This is the connector ID. So how do you know that? It's saying that connections available custom slash the connector name, right? So shared and connector string, and then there is a GUID here. So that's the full thing is the connector name. I copy this and paste this, and then you can download. What if you want to update your connector, right? So PCon update is your friend, and then you can read the documentation online. PCon update is very similar to PCon create that we already discussed. So read the documentation here. So download, create, and you can see how to update. There's one more CLI that we recently published called Pack CLI. It's a bigger CLI that does more than connectors. So it's Power Platform CLI, and then the reference you can see it can do connectors, it can do solutions, it can do telemetry, it can do a lot of canvas and a lot of other things, right? So the way it works is that if after you install it, you go here and do PACon auth, sorry, pack auth create. So what it does, it creates the authentication for you. So you can say pack auth create. So to save time, I'm just gonna overview. So as you can see that first of the for compared to the other plugin, this is a little more user friendly. You can see that login is done here. And then you can do now after you're logged in, you can go to connector. The first thing you need to do is init, and then you can say pack connector init. And here they need two things: display name dash display name Facebook, and then dash name is name, and it says that it must have a prefix of 2 to 8 characters followed by dash and name. So name is Facebook, so you're gonna say shared Facebook. So we init that, and then after that, it's pretty similar to the other thing. Is basically connector update, connector create list is like list the connectors. And there's download. So the things are very similar. One thing that's missing is the verify that we have been using. So the verification that we did is not available, and that's one problem, right? Okay, so this is a verification. So I'm going to conclude that here. So we started with like validating a connector. What other ways are there to validate? Let's ask the team here. 5 5. Gene.
Um, the first one we validated using.
So is there any other? So we use the tools CLI for validation. Is there anything else we can do to validate? Is the question.
Maybe there is a GUI version.
Okay, yeah, that's a great point. So you can basically do what we did at the beginning, right? So the GUI, if you want to create a custom connector, you can say open API file, and then you can open the Swagger file, and every time you do anything like that, it will do a validation, right? So just the way we did with GitHub, right? We tried to bring in Facebook. It was saying that there was an error. So there's a validation here too. So those are the things you can do. There's an import option for Postman from GitHub. So that's an option too if you want to validate that way. So you can do that. I'm going to conclude the validation section for today. So this was the biggest chunk, and I wanted the live part of it. And now I'm going to switch to best practices. Before I go to best practices, I think it's going to take probably 5 to 7 minutes of content here. I want to complete one thing and show one thing that how to submit a connector onto our GitHub repo, right? For your hackathon presentation, you have to submit a connector. So once you're done creating a connector, how to submit one. So I don't think that was covered in any of the session before. So here's the way. So you have to create a fork. So what is a fork? Fork is your own copy that you create that you can modify whatever you want with, right? So create a new fork. Once you create a new fork, you'll have your own copy, right? Like I have my own copy. So the difference is that here is Microsoft. Here it's my name / Power Platform Connector. So I already created a fork. So here is a copy. So once you have a fork, click here and type your name or say a new connector, say updated super Facebook connector, right? And then you create a new branch, right? And then check out this branch, right? So you should clone this GitHub repo first. So clone it the way you clone any repo. So you go here, say git clone, and then copy this and then paste here. So you clone this, and then once you clone this, let's actually do that, right? Uh, and then once you cloned it, you go to that directory. And once you're in the directory, you check out this super Facebook branch, right? So it's git check out super Facebook. Okay. Now you add your connector here. You can copy those files and add, and then git add is a command you can do. But you can also all of these. Another tool that you can use is this tool called GitHub Desktop. It's GUI. It's easier if you prefer this do this way, or if you have the new connector git add. Once you add this, you can then create a pull request. You can once this is updated, so you can create a new pull request. So this is important. That's why I'm showing this part. You can so this there is not no files. We did not update any files. But what is happening here is saying that from your repo, from this branch, so from this branch, create a PR directly to Microsoft's dev branch. And since we don't have anything, it's not letting me do that. But once you have files, it will show you that. So that's how you submit a PR, right? So again, I'm just going to recap. So this is the Microsoft repo, and I have listed all of these here. There are some more steps, so I wrote this documentation to have that. So again, I'm just going to recap what I just said. On the Microsoft Power Platform connector, you go here and create a fork, create new fork that will create your own copy. Once you have your own copy, you start with creating a new branch. So Super Facebook 2, create a new branch, and then make a clone, make a copy in your local, add whatever you want to add. And once you added that and you pushed it to this branch, you can come here and you can create a pull request, new pull request, and make sure that you are pushing from your branch, sorry, your repo, the new branch that you are doing to Microsoft's repo and dev branch. And that's how we create a PR. You can use this GitHub Desktop tool. That's also helpful. So that's going to wrap our live demo portion. I'm just going to go through. So we talked about how to fix it, how to run validation tool. We talked about PACon Pack CLI, and I'm just going to do the best practices. Okay. So I think we're right on time. Let's see if we can finish this off. Okay. So what are the best practices, right? So treat these the connector as code and use version control, right? So the reason for doing this is that you can make mistakes, right? And once you have a connector and you are just doing everything on the UI, it's great to do it in the UI. I love the UI and fix. You can get your hands dirty, fix things on the fly. But if you say you are satisfied with your changes, then the next update, if you update your connector, your previous update is gone. Like you've modified it now, you cannot go back. So that's why it's better to just download the connector and use a Git or some other tool to manage your code version, like control the versions, right? So that anytime you have problem, you can just go back. And with the tool, with the CLI, you can create multiple versions of your connector to test out theory. Like, okay, theory 1 is this, theory 2 is this. So that's why we suggest that you use the CLI. I know it can be daunting, but it's going to be a great tool too. So connector has limits, right? So the limits are this, right? So understanding the limit is important because if you don't know them and you start building and then you run into limit, you're going to be frustrated. So how many custom connector can you have? You can have 1,000 per subscription. How many requests can you send per minute per connection? It's 500. How many schema you can have in a Swagger? You can have 512. Schema defines request and response in a connector, right? How many operations can you have in a Swagger? It's 256. And what can be the total schema size? It's all this multiplication 256 and this number of the schema you can have per operation. That's 4 million lines that you can have. So the goal is to best practice would be to avoid large connector. API can be large, but the connector has a limitation. So you can have multiple connectors in groups of APIs. So let's say GitHub has large APIs or Facebook has large APIs. You can have Facebook post as like a Facebook post connector, Facebook pages as Facebook pages connector, and things like that. But then also be cautious that you don't make too many small connectors, right? Make it like find like a middle ground where it works. These limits can be found in this link. Right? Some other best practices that use definition to define and use a schema. Use parameter for parameters. So some good examples are here. Um, if you go to certified connectors, Azure AD, so see how they are for the schema, they are using something called a definition. And in the definition, they put all their definition here and then just referred, they created a reference of all of this. Similarly, for parameters, they had something like that. So the parameters are all defined in one place and used as references. So that's the best practice. Okay, for to save that. So for example, here, that's the did here. Okay, I'm just gonna, for saving time, I'm just gonna run through it. Use a smaller schema when full schema is not needed. So you don't, even if the schema is like really large and you don't need it, you can have like a smaller version of it. Use version in the API path. What I mean by that is uh, here, look the version here. So look here, the version is here, and the reason for putting, you could put the version in the base path, but putting here makes it possible to version. So if there's a version 1.01, you can have a different action and so on and so forth, right? Always add a response schema, write good description, write XMS summary, and there's a best practice for a string. Follow the string guidance, right? And validate, validate. Always fix all the errors. I wanted a quick rundown of advanced features. Documentation is right here. I already showed one, the dynamics XMS dynamic values, but there are more. Read about this though there. There's something called trigger. There are three types of triggers: polling trigger, webhook, and smart polling trigger. I don't think we have a documentation for smart polling trigger yet, but these two are very popular and works. So take a look at this documentation. We also support code, and this is the documentation for that. This is a fully managed code, and the way it works is that you go here and you go to the code section. There's a code now. You can enable the code and add code. So to learn more, visit this. It will take another full presentation to do this. Okay, that's all I have for today. Thank you so much for being patient and working with me. Really appreciate your time.
Thank you so much,
Thank
Mahbub.
you.
I just wanted to add one link in the chat before we leave. I was able to find a place where, let me find the link, where you guys can file some of your concerns. And other people throughout the connector community will be able to provide you guys some answers. So more than just internals, as well as, MVPs, partners that are super involved in the connector community. I'm going to drop this link here. I hope that would help to provide you guys some insight, a place where you guys can answer questions or ask questions for each other as well.
Okay. If you don't have any other question, I really want to thank you. It's been a long 1 hour, and I think I took you through a really difficult path, but I hope this is helpful and enjoy creating connectors, and let us know if you have any questions, okay? Thank
Thank you
you.
very
Bye.
much, Mahbub. Have a great day, everyone.